The GHG Protocol actually stands for the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, which is a widely recognized accounting framework used to measure and manage greenhouse gas emissions. It was developed by the World Resources Institute and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development in collaboration with various stakeholders within various industries. The GHG protocol was first introduced in 1998 as a response to the need for standardized guidelines on measuring and reporting the greenhouse gas emissions. It aimed to provide businesses and organizations with common language or a common guidance to address the climate change. And since then, it has evolved through multiple iterations, with the most recent being the GHG Protocol Corporate Standard, was released in 2021. So all we know that greenhouse gas emissions are resulting from various human activities across different sectors. So the GHG protocol itself actually categorized these emissions into three main sources, or commonly known as scopes. We have first, second, and third scope of emission. So the first scope of emission, or known as scope 1 emissions, actually refer to the more direct greenhouse gas emissions from the sources that are controlled directly by an organization. So for example, including those emissions from fossil fuel combustion, in company-owned vehicles, on-site power generations, and etc. So scope 2 emissions different from scope 1 emissions, in which that scope 2 emissions covering those of indirect greenhouse gas emissions, which are resulting from the generation of purchased electricity, heating, or energy consumption by an individual or the organizations. Scope 3 emission being very greatly different with scope 1 and scope 2, and compares all other indirect greenhouse gases emissions that occur in the value chain of an organization. So scope 3 emissions actually arise from the activities such as the purchase goods and services, the business travels, or waste disposal. So the development of these three scopes, which is official within the GHG protocol, was done to encourage the organizations to take a comprehensive approach to their greenhouse gas accounting and reduction strategies, as well as how was their mitigation plan to address the climate change. So this is very essential for those of the organizations or the individuals to identify and to set the boundaries for each scope, to allow them to account for their emissions from various activities under their control and those associated with their value chain. So besides from three official scopes of emissions, which are introduced by the GHG protocol itself, recently we have a trend where the introduction of Scope 4 emission was described. And however, this Scope 4 emissions is not, it's still unofficial. And Scope 4 emissions is actually a new term created by the World Resources Institute as well, but mostly refers to the emissions reductions that occur outside the value chain or the life cycle of the product, which are also commonly referred to as avoided emissions, or else included also those of unreachable or unfeasible evaluations within or throughout the conductions of GHG Scope 3 emissions, because GHG Scope 3 emissions included the process throughout the whole production process from Scope 1 until the Scope 3, which is from the energy consumption until the whole value chain on the productions of the product. So the formula and the evaluations of the carbon emissions or the greenhouse gas emissions actually sometimes unfeasible. And well, they are currently no compulsory requirement to conduct a report on the Scope 4 emissions, but it can prove that this is very beneficial for both individuals and companies looking to reduce their emissions and improve upon their sustainability efforts and meeting their climate goals. So why this Scope 4 is important? Because it actually can help the companies or the individuals or the organizations to actually reduce their carbon footprints more easily and effectively, while also benefiting the environment and their future businesses endeavors. But this is theoretically, so this is because Scope 4 emissions are not a significant environmental impact that is typically needed to be monitored immediately or right away by companies like those of other official scopes, which are Scope 1 and 3, which making the companies to likewise staying ahead of their climate game. So if companies seek to understand their scope emissions, it can help them to create new ideas on how to reduce their lesser known source emissions, and ultimately may encourage more sustainable tactics like cultivating a more efficient supply chain, filling out their shortness within the evaluations. So the Scope 4 emissions also act as a very important role in promote transparency regarding to the company's environmental impact, help to recognize the risk factors with more precise data due to the requirements for necessary Scope 4 reporting, or to help better understand on how the product is manufactured, or trace on their previous emissions data, and allow for brainstorming on new ideas in how to switch to low carbon productions.